Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Optimization in Civil Engineering. In the last lecture, we discussed about the duality properties of linear programming problem. The information was quite helpful, particularly in case where we need to revisit the problem because of some changes in the coefficients or the constraints. Now, as I had indicated in the last class, today we are going to discuss about the two special cases of linear programming problems. These two cases are transportation problem and assignment problem. The transportation and assignment problems are special in various ways, and that is what we'll come to know in a while. Just to give you the relevance, the linear programming problem are used for solutions of various real-world engineering problems. Now, some of these engineering problems could be related to transportation problem. For example, if you want to transport goods from a factory to a warehouse, or if you want to transport goods from a location where it is being manufactured to a location where it is going to be used, particularly in the construction industry, you may be procuring the various construction materials from different parts of the city or different locations, and you want to use it in the building construction happening at one location. And it's not only about construction happening at one location. Over a city, the construction could be happening at different locations, and a developer who is developing this project at different location need to know from where they can procure the material at a cheaper cost, because any procurement from a particular location to this site is going to cost depending on the distance and depending on the cost of the raw material at a particular manufacturing unit. So in those cases, you need to convert the problem into a transportation problem. The function is still going to be a linear function. However, it has certain characteristics which we'll be discussing today. The other case is the assignment problem. For example, in a civil engineering project, if you want to assign a particular office or assign a particular person to a particular project, and you have many site engineers at different offices at different locations, and you have many projects all over the city or all over the country, whichever is your geographical area of concern. In this case, you can only assign one engineer for one site. This particular type of problem falls under the assignment problem. So these two special category we are going to discuss today. Let us start our discussion based on the transportation problem. So as I had indicated earlier, a transportation problem is a type of linear programming problem that determines how to optimally transport goods between two locations. Generally, this type of problem has large number of constraints, but many of the elements of A, which represents the amount of resource consumed by each activity, are actually zero. Only a few elements of A in the constraints appear as non-zero and in distinctive pattern. So let us look into the general form of a transportation problem. The objective function is similar to the linear programming problem. However, mostly we minimize the problem. When we look into the constraint, it has constraint related to the demand and it has constraint related to the supply. So these two sets of constraint are the constraint which defines the transportation problem. Like the linear programming problem, the design variable or decision variables are expected to be greater or equal to 0 for all I and j. And when we say about the supply and demand, the constraints, these are going to be the equality constraint in case of transportation problem. So if you recall, in the linear programming problem, in the standard format, it used to be less or equal to a constant. Here it is going to be equal to, and these constants are always going to be of integer values. Let us look into a simple problem which qualifies as a transportation problem. In this problem, we are looking into different factory location which are indicated by F1, F2 and F3, and different warehouse locations which are indicated by W1, W2, W3 and W4. Now in this table, these numbers represents the cost to transport from a factory F1 to W1, F1 to W2, F1 to W3, F1 to W4, like that. So we get a cost matrix for each factory to each warehouse. The whole system has certain production capability. So for factory F1, the production capability is 75. That is the maximum number of units or goods it is going to manufacture. So this 75 units of goods needs to be transported to one of the warehouses, and depending on the cost, we have to choose the optimal location or optimal combination of the factory and the warehouse. Factory 2 has a production limit of 125 and factory 3 has a production limit of 100. Likewise, warehouse also can have storage capacity limit, and for that, here we are indicating the warehouse 1 has a storage capacity, maximum storage capacity rather, 80, warehouse 2 65, warehouse 3 70 and warehouse 4 85. Generally, if you add the production capability and the storage capacity, you will find those are equal. This is called a balanced transportation problem. We'll discuss about this in a while. Before that, let us understand how we can formulate this problem into a LPP problem, which eventually can be qualified or which eventually can be represented as the transportation problem. So we are looking into the minimization of the total transportation cost. So that is why we are minimizing. And if we assume that X11 unit produced at factory 1 is being transported to warehouse 1, then the cost is going to be 464 times X11. Likewise, if X12 unit is being transported from factory 1 to warehouse 2, then this is the cost. So likewise, if we keep adding, this is going to give me the total transportation cost of all the products which are manufactured in one of the factories or in all the factories and which is being transported to the 4 warehouses we have. Now we do have certain limitation. For example, the factory, it can produce different numbers depending on the factory we are talking about. So if you are talking about factory 1, we can say the factory 1 which has transported to warehouse 1, warehouse 2, warehouse 3 and warehouse 4, together the total number should be equal to 75, because that has been manufactured in factory 1 and it is being transported to one of the warehouses or a combination of the warehouses. Likewise, for factory 2, the limit is 125, factory 3 100. Now we need to look into the constraints from the warehouse point of view. So what has been transported from factory 1, factory 2 and factory 3 in warehouse 1, the total is going to be 80, warehouse 2 is going to be 65, warehouse 3 is going to be 70 and warehouse 4 is going to be 85. Like any other linear programming problem, all the variables xij are going to be greater or equal to 0 for all the 3 factories and 4 warehouse. So this is going to be the mathematical representation of the transportation problem. Now you will see that a transportation problem will have feasible solution when the supply and the demand are balanced. So in the previous example, as I was indicating to you, the total number of units which are being manufactured in the factories are going to be equal to the total number of units that can be stored in the warehouses. For that case, we can call it as a balanced transportation problem, and when it is balanced, then only we can solve it. In case of an unbalanced transportation problem, suppose the number of units manufactured in the factories are more than the number of units that can be stored in the warehouses, or the number of units that can be stored in the warehouses are more than the units that is being manufactured in the factories. If we get into that kind of problem, we call it as an unbalanced transportation problem. In this case, we need to introduce either a dummy source or a dummy destination or dummy storage location in order to balance the excess demand or supply. And as I had indicated at the beginning, the supply and the demand are always going to be an integer. So eventually what we are seeing is that all basic variables in every basic feasible solution are going to have integer values. This was not in the case of a regular linear programming problem. These are the properties which makes a transportation problem stand out from a regular linear programming problem, and these properties are going to be useful even in the solution. Particularly, this property can be exploited and we can quickly reach to the solution without even solving it using simplex method or any other similar method. A simplex method may give you the solution as long as you have all the constraints right for the integer, but it is going to make the solution process cumbersome and time consuming. So the solution methodology for a transportation problem is generally divided into two parts. In the first part, we need to find an initial basic feasible solution. Once we know the initial basic feasible solution, then we use another method to find the final solution. The methods that are generally used to find the initial basic solutions are northwest method or northwest corner method, minimum cost method, and Vogel approximation method. Apart from these three methods, there are other methods as well to find. However, just for this class, we are indicating these three methods, and out of these three methods, we'll discuss only these two methods in this class. Now, coming to the final solution, once we obtain the basic feasible solution using one of the methods we discussed, we can solve it using stepping stone method, or we can solve it using modified distribution method. Now, the modified distribution method is a variation of the stepping stone method. Hence, in this class, we are more going to discuss about the modified distribution method, where you will see a glimpse of the stepping stone method. However, for your better understanding, if you want to implement a stepping stone method, you can read it elsewhere to find out the stepping stone method. But in this class, we'll come to know about the modified distribution method. Now, let us first look into the northwest corner method to find out the initial basic feasible solution. The northwest corner method indicates that once we form the table for the transportation problem, and this problem is the same which we had described earlier, we choose the northwest corner of the cost table. So the northwest corner is this one, and in this corner we assign the maximum possible units based on the supply and demand. So for this particular corner, if we see, the supply which can get into is 75 and the demand it can accommodate is 80. So the minimum of these two is going to be assigned here, because if I want to assign 80, I cannot supply because there is a constraint from the supply side. So the minimum of it is assigned here. So once I assign, this is being satisfied, I strike off all these rows. Now the northwest corner of the remaining matrix is going to be this one. Here I need to assign the units which can satisfy the supply and demand. So out of 80, 75 had been already satisfied here. So the remaining here is now 5. And here we have 125. Out of these two, the 5 is minimum. So the maximum we can accommodate here is going to be 5. And once we do this, this demand has been satisfied. So I can cross out this particular column. Once I cross out this particular column, my next northwest corner is going to be this one. Now if I look into the supply and demand, I have already assigned 5 out of 125, so I have 120 to assign, and here I have 65. So out of this, the maximum I can assign is 65. And it satisfies this particular column, so I strike out this column and the northwest corner is now here. In this case, I have already satisfied 65, so from 120 we have 55 remaining to assign. And in the column wise we have 72 assigned, so the maximum we can assign here is 55. It satisfies this particular row, so we can strike off this row. And as we strike off this row, our next northwest corner is this one, and we have already assigned 55, so out of 70 the remaining is 50. Now in this corner, if I look row wise and the column wise, the maximum I can assign to this particular corner is 15. And once I assign 15, it is satisfying the column, I can strike off. So the last northwest corner remaining is the last cell, which is here, and once I satisfy 15 here, we are remaining with 85, so that 85 is assigned here. The northwest corner method, if you look into, we could assign this to each of the corner and still satisfy the requirement because it is a balanced problem. So you can imagine if it is not a balanced problem, we couldn't have complete the process. And in those cases, we had to introduce our dummy source or our destination. We'll talk about that later. Now, this was about the northwest corner method to come up with the basic feasible solution. Next, we'll look into the minimum cost method. While we solved using the northwest corner method, we actually did not bother about the unit cost or the cost of the transportation. It may be a concern because we want to minimize the cost and we are not looking into while we are developing the basic feasible solution. So it would be better to consider the minimum cost while solving the problem. So the minimum cost method is going to come into the picture in that case. Now we are looking into the same table, the cost matrix and the supply and the demand part. Now in this cost matrix, first we need to find out the cell which has the minimum cost. And if I look into all these 12 cells, I can identify that this particular cell has a minimum cost, and that is 352. Now this particular cell either going to satisfy the demand of 80 or the supply of 125. So the maximum which it can satisfy is the demand of 80 because that is the lowest number. So we assign that. Hence it is clear to us that this particular column is done. We cannot assign anything in this particular column. If we assign anything, it is going to violate the maximum capacity of the warehouse. Now we can see the minimum cost is here. In this particular case, if we look into the row wise, we need to satisfy 100. If we look into the column wise, we need to satisfy 70. And the minimum of this, which can be accommodated at this cost, is going to be 70. once we satisfy this, then we can say that the demand side has been satisfied, so we can cross off this particular column. So from the supply side, if we go back quickly, we still need to satisfy 45 of this supply, and in this case 30 of this. And in the cost matrix, now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cells with different costs. Here, if we look into the minimum cost, we see that this particular cell has the minimum cost. And if we look into the row wise and the column wise, we see the row wise we need to satisfy 45 and the column wise we need to satisfy 65. So the minimum of that is going to be 45, which we can assign it here. The moment we assign 45, this whole 45 is being taken care of, which means I cannot have any other number in this particular row, so I need to strike off this particular row. Any excess amount if we put, it is not going to satisfy or meet the factory production, and hence we cannot actually have any other number in this particular row. So this leaves us with the 4 cells, which is here, here, here and here. In these 4 cells, again if we search for the minimum cost, we see that the minimum cost is going to be 513. And if we go by row wise, we need to satisfy. If we go by column wise, out of 65, 45 had been satisfied, so we have 20 to satisfy, and this 20 can be assigned in this particular cell, and it completes this particular column. And as we provide this 20, the remaining here is now going to be 55. Now we look into the 2 cells, which is here and here. Out of this, the minimum is this one, and if we look into what it can satisfy, we see that from the row wise it needs to satisfy 30 and the column wise it needs to satisfy 85. So the minimum of that, which is 30, it is going to satisfy. We are assigning it here. Then in the column wise we are remaining with 55, and this particular row is covered, so we are left with 1 cell, and in this cell of course this 55 is going to be assigned, and that is how we assign as per the minimum cost method. Again, as I said, it is going to give you the basic feasible solution, and using this basic feasible solution you have to now choose a method which can yield the final solution. As I had indicated earlier, we are going to discuss about the modified distribution method, or in a short known as MODI method, to solve this problem. For that purpose, let us first look into the mathematical formulation of the problem, and this is the same formulation which we had discussed earlier for the given factory and warehouse problem. Now for this problem, we can always write the dual of this primal problem, which we had learned in the earlier class. If we represent the dual of this primal problem, it can be represented in this format. So here you can see the coefficients are actually the constraints, the right hand side of the constraints. All these are coming from the primal. And you see the constraint, the right hand side of the constraints are coming from the, again, the coefficient in the objective function. So this is how we develop the dual problem. You can look into that and understand it clearly, because this is what we are going to use it in the MODI method. And as I have shown you the basic feasible solution, either using the northwest corner method or the minimum cost method. In this particular case, we are going to use the northwest corner method to solve the problem. So in the northwest corner method, the basic feasible solution we obtained is shown here in this table. If we look into the dual problem of the primal, we are saying that we have assigned 75 here. So we said y1 plus y4 is going to be 464. Then these are the cells which are not empty. For that only we are writing these equations. The second one is this particular cell where we have assigned 5 unit which is not empty. So we are writing it y2 plus y4 equal to 352. It is again coming from the dual problem formulation which was there in the previous slide. Next we have this particular cell which is not empty because we have assigned some value 65. So for this y2 plus y5 is equal to 416. Likewise for this cell it is y2 plus y6 is 690. For this cell it is y3 plus y6 is equal to 388, and for this cell we have y3 plus y7 equal to 685. Now if we try to solve this particular equation, we'll see that the number of equations we have here is 6 and the number of variables we have is 7. So we are one sort of the variable to get the definite solution. However, we can actually assume one of the variable value and start finding the solution of the other variables. In MODI method, we generally assume one of the variable equal to 0 and then try to solve the set of equations. So for this particular problem, as I had said, y1 we are setting it as 0, then we can get all the variable values as indicated here. Now these were for the cells which were not empty. We need to now calculate the other equations which we had for the cells which are empty. In our dual problem formulation, we have the equations for the cells which are not empty and which also have equations for the cells which are empty. We have solved it for the cells for which the cells are not empty. Now we are going to solve and see what is the output for each of the empty cells. So if we go one by one, this is one of the empty cells, so 513, and this was represented by y1 and y5. So this 513 minus y5 and y1 is going to be negative 15. Likewise, if we look into this particular empty cell, we can see the solution is going to lead to the negative 148. And if we do for all the empty cells, we can get all the costs. Now these costs are actually telling us the opportunity to minimize the objective function cost. So these values are indicating the opportunity we have in minimizing the overall objective function or overall cost in the transportation. And the cell with the minimum cost has the highest opportunity to minimize the overall objective function further. And in this case, we see that the minimum value is here, and this is for the cell which has the cost 867, which is shown here. Right now there is no assignment, that is why it is empty cell. So if we actually make some assignment in this particular cell, then our cost is going to further reduce. So let us see how we can do it. In this case, we have to use the stepping stone method. So we started with this particular cell. If we want to assign at this particular cell, we have to find from where we can assign. Either we can assign it from here, we have to go only column wise or row wise, or we can assign it from here. So if we want to assign it, means let us indicate that we want to assign some value and it can come from here or here. So we can say minus and we can say minus here. One of these we can assign. If we want to assign some value from here, it is going to imbalance the row. So we need to balance the row by assigning the amount which we lose from here to that. Now we can only choose the cell which is not empty. So in this case, we see that this cell is not empty. So we can take it from here, which means we are going to add whatever we are going to lose here, we can add it here. In this case, we need to find out a non-empty cell, whatever we are losing here can be added there, so that we can have the balance in the column. And the cell where we can assign is here, because this is the only non-empty cell that can be used. Now again, once we look into this particular row is going to be imbalanced because we have added something. Likewise, this particular column is going to be imbalanced because we have added something. We need to deduct it. And this deduction, if we see it is crossing each other at this non-empty cell, we can actually deduct it from here. This way we can clearly define a path which is here, 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 here and here. So this is a stepping stone path. If you understand the path clearly, again let me explain it. We found out that this particular cell has the minimum or the lowest value. So it indicates that if we assign some value here, then overall objective function is going to reduce. Now if you want to assign in this empty cell, we need to take some value to have it balanced in the row wise and the column wise. So if we go row wise, we see the non-empty cell is this. So from here we can subtract and assign it here. Likewise, if we want to balance the column wise, we definitely need to subtract somewhere, and this is the cell from where we can subtract and we can balance. Once we do this, it is going to imbalance the particular row or this particular column. So we need to find a cell which is non-empty where it can be balanced. So we have deducted from this particular place, so we have to find where we can add to balance it. So we found this particular non-empty cell where we can do it. Likewise, here in this column we found this particular place where we can add to keep this column balanced. Because if you say that 75 and 5, 80 is the total what the warehouse capacity is. So if we take out some amount from here, we need to reach that 80 level. So we need to add it here. Now once we add, again this row is going to be imbalanced. So we need to subtract from somewhere. We have to find out the extreme non-empty cell, and this is the extreme non-empty cell. Likewise for this column, this is the extreme non-empty. If we had chosen this one, we couldn't have complete the path. So the stepping stone method is always going to the extreme non-empty cell. In this case we went to the extreme, in this case we went to the extreme, this case also we went to the extreme because after that this is empty cell. In this case if we go, this is the extreme because after this is an empty cell, and this is not the extreme one in this particular row. So this is how we created the stepping stone path. Looking into this path, what is the maximum amount we can deduct? We can deduct from here 85, we can deduct from here 75, we can deduct from here 55. So the maximum we can deduct is 55. Anything more than that, this particular cell is going to be negative, which is going to violate the constraint which we had indicated. So maximum we can deduct is 55. So if we are deducting 55, we need to add 55 here. We need to deduct 55 from here. We have to add 55 here. We need to deduct 55 here, and we need to add 55 here. Once we do this, we can rewrite the assigned values. So if we deduct 55 from 75, the value is going to be 20. If we add 55 with 5, the value is going to be 60. This is going to remain same. As I said, the maximum deduction, so that the value cannot be negative. So the maximum deduction, if we do it, this value is going to turn to be 0. If we add 55 with 15, the value is going to be 70. If we deduct 55 from 85, the value is going to be 30. And we have added 55 this particular cell. Now this is one of the basic feasible solution, and for this basic feasible solution we are going to look into the second iteration where we want to represent the constraint equation from the dual problem. So we have a value non-empty cell here, this is the one equation. We have a value here now, this is the non-empty cell, so this is the equation. Likewise we have again 6 equations. Now we are again in the same situation where the number of equations is 6 and the number of variables is 7. So to solve this, we need to assume one of the variable value and then solve the other. Again we consider y1 equal to 0 and try to solve. We'll get this solution. Now we need to look into the opportunity which is there in the empty cells. So for the empty cell 513, 513 minus 528, which is your y5. So let me write it in a way which will help you to understand. So this is my y1, this is y2, this is y3, this is y4, y5, y6, y7. So any cell which we are choosing, it's a combination of both. In this case we said y1 plus y4, in this case we said y1 plus y7, in this case we said y2 plus y4, like that way. So when we are estimating the empty cells, in this case it is going to be y1 plus y5 equal to 513. So we are trying to evaluate this. So we said 513 minus y1 is 0 and y5 is 528, which is going to be negative 15. Now in this calculation, since we are getting the negative value, which means we have a scope, if we assign some quantity here, we may able to balance. Like that way, we look into all the empty cells and find out that this particular cell has the lowest value. So if we assign some here, overall objective cost is going to reduce. Hence, in this case, we'll start assigning some value. So wherever we want to assign, we say we want to assign means plus. We have to find out the non-empty cell from where we can assign it. If we go this direction, we have a non-empty cell, this one. If we go this direction, we have a non-empty cell, this one. You can choose one way. Let me first choose this way. So if we want to assign some, we can take it out from here. If we take it out from here, we need to balance the column. So we need to add it here. Then if we look into the extreme cell where it is not empty, so this is the extreme cell where it is not empty, so we need to subtract it from here. It completes one stepping stone path. If we had gone in this direction by chance, let us see if we can complete the path or not. We could have taken it from here. If we had taken it from here, we need to add in one of the non-empty cell. We could have added it here. If we had added it here, the extreme non-empty cell is here from where we need to deduct. Then we need to find out the extreme non-empty cell in the column, and we do not have any because all these are empty cells. There is no value to it. So if you recall, after the first iteration, this has become 0, means it has become an empty cell. So we cannot complete the path in this case if we had gone this side. If we cannot complete the path, we cannot use it. We have to always find a path which is complete, which is coming back to the origin. So if you are looking into this particular path, we need to see what is the maximum amount we can assign in this. So we have to look into the cells which are marked with the negative value. So one is 65, another is 20. The minimum of these two can be assigned. So we can assign up to 20, and that 20 needs to be deducted from here. In this case added, and in this case deducted 20. So this will be 0, this is going to be 20, added 20 means it is going to be 80, and deducted 20 means it is going to be 45, and all the other cells are going to remain as is. Now we have got a feasible solution, and we need to go to the iteration tree to repeat the process. And for each of the non-empty cell, if we write the constraints which are indicated here, again we have 6 equations and 7 variables. We need to choose one of the variable value and solve for the other equations. Once we do that, we get the values which are indicated here. In the same way, we need to look into the empty cells, and if we do the empty cells as I had explained in the previous slide, the way we have to calculate the empty cells. Once we calculate, we see that none of the empty cell overall value is negative. Means if we do not have any opportunity to assign to any of the empty cells to reduce the objective function value, that means we have reached to our optimum solution. And the solution, it indicates that from factory 1 to warehouse 2 we should transport 20 unit, factory 1 to warehouse 4 we should transport 55 unit, factory 2 to warehouse 1 we should transport 80 units, factory 2 to warehouse 2 45 units, factory 3 to warehouse 3 70 unit, and factory 3 to warehouse 4 30 unit. Just to recap, we had various methods to find out the initial feasible solution. We discussed about the two methods, and the initial feasible solution we need to use to find out the final solution using one of the methods, and in this case we used the modified distribution method. In the modified distribution method, we need to formulate the dual of the primal problem, the transportation problem which we are solving, and this dual problem, the constraints indicate each of the cell cost. So we need to see the non-empty cells and the empty cells. The equations representing the non-empty cells, we try to solve. Based on that, we get the variable values of the dual decision variable, and using those decision variable like y1, y2, y3, y5, we look into the values for the empty cells. The empty cell with the minimum value, which is the least, the most negative value, is chosen to assign certain quantity, and for that we need to use the stepping stone method to find out the proper path which is going to cover the row and column and balance it. Once we find the proper path, we assign the minimum possible quantity which is available in the negative cells and balance it. Once we balance it, we get a new feasible solution. This new feasible solution, again we go for the next iteration, and the process continues until we find that the empty cell calculation has no negative value, means there is no opportunity to move to the empty cell to get a better solution. Once we reach that, we know we have reached the optimum solution and we can report. Next, we are going to look into the unbalanced transportation problem. We had indicated earlier that if the supply and the demand does not match, then we have an unbalanced transportation problem. Here we are going to show you one such problem for the supply imbalance and one such problem for the demand imbalance. So in this case, the first we'll see that the total supply we can provide is 600 in this particular problem, and the demand is 650. So it clearly says that there is a shortage in the supply. For that purpose, we can create a dummy source for this imbalanced supply and assign that imbalanced amount to this dummy source, then make the problem balanced and use the regular technique to solve the problem. The second problem, you'll see that the supply is in excess of the demand. In this case, we create a dummy demand node with the excess amount of the supplied amount and balance the problem. Now the problem is balanced and we can use the regular way of solving the problem. So this is how we can resolve the unbalanced transportation problem or further solution. There are few things which we need to know about the transportation problem. One of the information is related to the degeneracy of the transportation problem. You have noted that we are trying to develop stepping stone path while solving the problem. In order to find the stepping stone path, we see that the supply node plus the demand nodes minus 1 should be equal to number of occupied cells. Then only we can have a full loop of the stepping stone path. In certain cases, if we cannot have this equation satisfied, then we cannot have the stepping stone path. In this situation, we consider the tableau is degenerated, and this situation can happen at any stage of the solution process. Once happened, the number of equations which we have developed for the non-empty cell in modified distribution method or MODI method, we'll see that the number of equations are at least 2 less than the number of variables we want to solve. In all other cases, the number of equations was 1 less than the number of variables which we were trying to solve, and for that reason one of the variable we had assumed the value and we solved the values of the other variables. So if the number of equations are less by 2, then we have to assume 2 variable values. So let us see what we can do at this stage. In this situation, we consider one of the empty cell arbitrarily and artificially allot with 0 in that particular cell to make it a non-empty cell for the solution. Now when we choose this an empty cell as a non-empty cell and assign this value 0, we'll find that we cannot just choose any cell. In certain cases, it is still going to fail. So not all such allocations are going to be feasible. We need to try different empty cell to establish the feasible stepping stone path. Once we can establish that is the empty cell where we are going to assign 0 and make it a non-empty cell. This degenerated tableau can become a normal tableau and vice versa during the solution process. So identification of the degeneracy of the table is important, and how to deal with that is important in certain problem when you are solving. Another case can happen in particularly for the transportation problem is that the route which we are choosing. So we have the supply nodes, we have the demand nodes. Now between supply and the demand there could be certain routes which are impossible to match. So it is like you have a factory from where something is manufactured and it is going to be delivered into a certain market. Now there is no direct connection to that certain market, so you cannot supply that to that particular market. For example, if your factory is in one country and the demand is in another country, and if these two countries doesn't have the trade deal, then you cannot supply from this particular factory. It has to be supplied from a factory which is in another country. So how do you formulate that particular problem? In those cases, you have to actually use the transportation cost relatively very high value to prohibit any possible allocation. So if you are looking into this particular problem, if we say that from factory 3 we cannot supply to this particular market A, then we are assigning a very high value M to take care of that. And once we do that, we can solve the problem by the regular method. So this is all about the transportation problem. Now we'll quickly move into the assignment problem. The assignment problem is a special case of transportation problem where the supply and demand nodes are equal and all supplies and demands are equal to 1, which indicates that you have equal number of supply node and you have equal number of demand node, means the number of factories or the number of locations from where you are going to supply or the number of units you are going to supply is going to be equal to the number of places where you are going to supply. And you can supply only one unit from the supply node to the demand node. So if you want to represent the problem mathematically, it can be represented in this format. And if you recall, the objective function is going to be same what we had seen in case of transportation problem. However, if you see, since we said the number of demand nodes and the supply nodes are equal, so I and j have the same number of values, so both are of n. Now looking into the constraint, in case of transportation problem, we said one is going to be the demand, another is going to be the supply. Now here the total amount of supply and the total amount of demand is 1, so we are saying it is 1. And in case of transportation problem, we said all the variables are going to be greater or equal to 0, but here it is only going to be binary, which is 0 or 1. So this is the common form of mathematical representation of the assignment problem. Today we are going to discuss one method to solve the assignment problem, and this method is known as Hungarian method. In this method, in the very first step, we subtract the minimum number from each row to leave one zero element in each row. So once we look into the cost matrix, we have equal numbers. So if you are looking into the row wise, we find the minimum among this row. Suppose this has the minimum, this amount will be deducted from each of this cost to represent it, so that it leaves out to be 0. Next we go to this row, we do the same and we do the same. Once we complete for all the rows, then we move to the column. So subtract the minimum number from each column to leave one zero element in each column. Now we look into each of this column and we do the same. By chance, if we find already one element, for this case we made this as a 0, So this column already has 1 0, so we do not need to do anything in this particular column. The column which does not have 0, we need to do this exercise. Then once we do this exercise, we need to find the minimum number of lines that crosses out all zeros in the table. So this is an exercise where we need to find out the lines which is going to cross out the number of zeros in the table with the minimum number of lines. Once we do that, if we see that the number of lines are fewer than the total number of supply or the demand nodes, then we need to subtract the minimum uncrossed values from all other uncrossed values and add the same to all cells where two lines intersect. All other values are going to remain same or unchanged. I will explain this through an example for better understanding. In case if we find that the lines are equal to the total number of supply or the demand nodes, then we know that we have reached the optimum solution and we do not need to do any further iteration or any further process. One thing you will notice that this is only one iteration, there is no multiple iteration when I explain it through an example. So here is an example where we are using the assignment problem. So we have offices A, B, C and D, and we have project sites 1, 2, 3 and 4. So we need to find out which office is going to look after which project site. And here is the cost matrix from a particular office to the project site, the transportation cost or operation cost, you can say. So as I had indicated in the Hungarian method, in the first step we need to do the row operations where each row individually we have to identify the minimum value and subtract it from all the elements of that particular row. So in this particular row the minimum value is 2 and this 2 is subtracted from all the elements of this particular row. So that is how we got this particular row. Now in this particular row the minimum value is 1, this 1 is subtracted from all the elements and that is how we got these values. Likewise in this particular row the minimum value is 2 and that is subtracted and that is how we get this particular row, and this particular row the minimum is 2 and we get this particular value. Now if we look into this, we see that there are certain columns or there is one particular column where we do not have a 0 element. So we are doing this column operations. Once we do this column operation, the first column if we choose, which is this, it already has actually 2 zeros, so we do not need to do anything. If we choose the second column, which is here, and in this case we see that we have no cell with 0, so we need to apply the column operation and the minimum value we have is 1 and this 1 is subtracted from all the elements of the column and that is how we get this particular column. Once we move to the third column, we see that it has 1 0 element, so we do not need to do anything and we keep it as it is. If we move to the fourth column, again we have 1 0 element, so we do not need to do anything and hence we are keeping it as it is. After completing this row and the column operation, we need to find out the minimum number of lines in the step 3 which is going to cross all the zeros, and in this case we can see that the minimum line are this, this and this, which means we have 3 lines which can cross all the zeros, but we have 4 supply nodes or 4 demand nodes, so the total number of lines is less than that. That means we cannot achieve the solution. Let us interpret if we are trying to achieve the solution. So office A can take care of site 4, office B can take care of site 1. If it does, then what is going to happen with office C? It doesn't have any other site, only option is this site. Or if we say office C takes care of this particular site, then office B does not have which site to take care. So one of the site is going to be missed out. Whereas office D has 2 sites to one of the site it can choose randomly. So we are not reaching the solution. At this stage, the step 4, we said that we need to readjust. So we are looking into the elements which are not crossed. So the elements which are not crossed are shown here. In these elements, we have to find out which one is the minimum. We find this is the minimum. This value we need to subtract from all these elements. So that is what we subtracted. 2, 4, 1, 6. This will become 0 and this is going to be 6. Then we said we need to add the same amount at the cells where the lines are crossing. So this horizontal line and this vertical line is crossing here. We need to add. So that is how we got the value 9. Another point where two different lines are crossing is here. Again we add 1 here. That is how we got this value here. Now once we readjust, then we can see that we can actually have 4 lines and we have 4 demand or the supply node, which means we have reached the optimum solution. And in this optimum solution, we can say office A will manage site 4, office B is going to manage site 1, office C can manage site 1 or site 3. Since managing site 1 by office B is the cheapest, so office C is going to manage the site 3. Office D can manage either site 2 or site 3, and site 3 is already being managed by office C, so office D is going to manage site 2. So this is how we obtained the final solution in the assignment problem. With this, today we are concluding our lecture on the transportation and assignment problems, and as well as we are concluding our lecture on the optimization in civil engineering. So in this overall lectures, in the last few days or in the last all the lectures, we learned about various techniques to solve the optimization problem. As we had indicated in the beginning, the problem could be of single variable, multiple variable, with constraint, without constraint, and when we look into the constraints could be of equality nature or inequality natures. Now this problem, when we discussed, there are various methods to solve. Now which method is going to be appropriate for a particular problem depends on the overall problem which you are solving, the greater understanding of the problem. So the optimization methods which you learned in this course are just a technique to solve a real world problem. However, your understanding of the problem prevails when you are employing one or the other method. So overall, I think we have covered a lot of ground on the optimization. A few things which you should be looking forward in future are related to the multi-objective optimization problem, or the methods which are related to genetic algorithm or particle swarm algorithm, and henceforth. It is just the beginning, and you can look for more and more improvements in all these methods and taking this as a stepping stone or the base for your solution. I hope you have enjoyed the course and it will be helpful in your future. With that, thank you for listening to this lecture and attending all the lectures. Thanks to all of you.